Okay, so picture this. You're trying to steal $1 billion. Not with guns, no masks, but just typing on a keyboard.
Oh, wow.
Sounds like something straight out of Hollywood, right?
Yep, definitely.
But this actually happened back in 2016, the Bangladesh bank heist.
This case, it really captured the world's attention. I mean, you got a central bank,
Right?
a whole network of
Yeah.
global banks, hackers, casinos.
Yeah.
It's like a financial thriller, but in real life.
Totally. And it showed just how vulnerable not just one bank, but the whole system could be.
Exactly, the entire financial system.
And for this deep dive, we're using all sorts of stuff. News articles, Wikipedia, even transcripts from other podcasts that cover this.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's like we're piecing together this giant puzzle.
Yeah, it is.
So today we're going to break down how this heist actually happened,
Right.
who was behind it,
Uh-huh.
and what it means for cybersecurity in a world where money moves so fast.
Yeah, like the speed of light.
So Bangladesh Bank, they had a ton of money just sitting at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, like a lot of central banks do.
Right, these are like foreign currency reserves,
Uh-huh.
and it often reaches, billions of US dollars.
Wow.
And they use the SWIFT network to manage these funds.
Okay, so for anyone listening who doesn't know what SWIFT is,
Right.
it's basically a super secure messaging system that banks use to, move money around.
Right.
Or at least we thought it was super secure.
Well, and this wasn't even the first time that Bangladesh Bank had their security messed with.
Oh, really?
Back in 2013, hackers got away with $250,000 from Sonali Bank,
Huh.
another bank in Bangladesh. And both times there were suspicions that people on the inside might have been helping the hackers,
Oh, wow.
pointing out weaknesses in the SWIFT system and how to exploit them.
Like an inside job?
Exactly.
Okay, so these hackers,
Yeah,
they weren't just some random cyber criminals.
right. All the evidence seems to point to this group called Lazarus.
Lazarus.
And they're possibly connected to North Korea.
Whoa.
They're considered like one of the most active state-sponsored hacking groups out there.
Wow.
There's even evidence linking them to some other huge events,
Like what?
like the Sony Pictures hack back in 2014
Yeah.
and the WannaCry ransomware attack in 2017.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, pretty serious stuff.
So a government might be behind this.
Potentially, yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But how did they even get into Bangladesh Bank in the first place?
So it was through spear phishing.
Okay.
They basically disguised emails to look like job applications.
Job applications.
Yeah, and they targeted specific employees at the bank.
That is crazy.
It was really clever. They actually created this whole fake profile for someone named Rezil Alam.
Brazil Alam.
Yeah, and sent these resumes to a bunch of employees. At least 3 of them fell for it.
Oh, no.
Open the attachments.
Wow.
And those attachments had malicious code hidden in them.
It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Exactly.
So this was all happening a whole year before the heist even went down.
Yeah, that's what's so impressive about this. They were in the system for months,
Wow.
patiently studying the bank's procedures, gathering logins, basically hopping from one computer to the next, all while covering their tracks.
That was some Miki.
They waited for the perfect moment to strike.
So they were like digital ninjas,
Yeah, you could say that.
infiltrating the bank's defenses.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this heist so fascinating and also so terrifying,
Right.
that they played the long game.
Wow. So that moment came on February 4th, 2016,
Right.
a Thursday evening in Bangladesh.
Right on the brink of the weekend,
Uh-huh.
they sent 35 fraudulent transfer requests through SWIFT,
35.
asking for almost $1 billion. They knew it was a workday at the New York Fed, but they were also counting on the time difference
Right.
and the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday in the Philippines.
With the Philippines? Why were they involved?
Well, that's where the hackers wanted to send most of the money.
Okay.
Remember, they'd already set up those accounts there 9 months earlier under fake names?
Right.
Just with small deposits to keep them active.
Uh-huh.
They knew that banks in the Philippines would be closed until Tuesday because of the holiday.
Oh, so they were taking advantage of the time zones and holidays in 3 different countries.
Exactly.
That is some serious planning.
Yeah, it's incredible coordination.
Wow.
And it almost worked flawlessly.
Almost. But then there's that famous spelling error,
Oh, yeah.
the one that saved millions of dollars.
The foundation typo.
Foundation.
They tried to send $20 million to a Sri Lankan charity called the Shalika Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
but they spelled foundation wrong.
And Deutsche Bank. How are they involved?
So they were acting as a routing bank for the transfer, basically a middleman.
Okay.
That misspelling triggered an alert in their system,
Gotcha.
causing them to freeze the transaction and contact Bangladesh Bank.
Wow.
If that hadn't happened,
Right.
Who knows how far this could have gone?
So a single typo almost saved the day.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Like terrifying to think about.
It really highlights how even the most sophisticated cyber attacks can have the simplest weaknesses.
Right. But unfortunately, it didn't catch everything.
You're right.
The hackers still got away with a lot of money, like $81 million, right?
That's right.
What happened to that?
Well, it landed in those accounts at RCBC Bank in the Philippines.
Right, the fake ones.
The ones opened under fake names.
Okay.
From there, the money trail leads to casinos.
Casinos.
Millions were converted into chips at a casino in Manila.
Huh.
And even more ended up at a resort casino north of Manila.
So casinos, it makes sense if you're trying to launder money. I mean,
Right.
there's so much cash floating around.
Exactly.
But it seems so bold.
It was. They really exploited the system perfectly. Casinos often deal with these huge sums of money.
Yeah.
And at the time, the Philippines didn't have the strongest anti-money laundering laws, especially when it came to casinos. This made it super easy for the hackers to convert the stolen funds into chips,
Right.
gamble a bit, and then cash out,
Wow.
leaving very little trace.
So like a scene out of a heist movie.
I know, right?
But this is real life.
Yeah,
And the consequences are very real.
exactly. And there's still a lot more to uncover about this case.
Right. So, as we were saying, the investigation into this heist was massive.
Yeah, it spanned multiple countries.
Exactly.
Bangladesh, the U.S., the Philippines, even cybersecurity firms all over the world.
Absolutely. It was a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
And what they found is a story with more twists and turns than you could imagine.
Okay, so remind me, those 4 accounts at RCBC Bank in the Philippines,
Right.
the ones the hackers used to move the stolen money.
Yeah, those accounts were opened months before the heist
Right.
with just a few $100s deposited.
Uh-huh.
And the manager of that RCBC branch,
Yeah.
she was accused of letting those accounts be opened under fake names.
So she might have been involved. What do we know about her? Well, that's where things get interesting. She claims she was just following orders from higher-ups at the bank, saying she's being used as a scapegoat.
Wow, passing the buck like that.
Yeah.
Did the investigation find anything else?
Oh, yeah, they did. A key figure emerged in the Philippines.
Okay. Who?
A casino operator named Kim Wong.
Okay, now this is sounding even more like a movie plot.
Oh, right.
We've got millions of dollars hackers and now a casino operator.
I know, it's crazy. So Wong was accused of receiving $35 million of the stolen funds.
$35 million.
But he claimed he was just doing a favor for a friend
Oh, God.
and didn't know the money was stolen.
A $35 million favor. That's a pretty generous friend.
Right, and to make things even more complicated,
Yeah.
Wong cooperated with the investigators and returned $15 million.
So some of the money was recovered. What happened to the rest of it?
Well, unfortunately, that remains a mystery.
Yeah.
It's likely that most of it was laundered through the casino system,
Right.
converted to chips, gambled a bit, and then cashed out. Once money enters the physical world like that,
Right.
it becomes almost impossible to trace.
Wow. So all signs point back to North Korea.
The evidence is pretty compelling. The malware they used in the Bangladesh bank heist has striking similarities to the code used in other high-profile attacks, all linked to the Lazarus Group,
Right.
which is believed to be operating out of North Korea.
So if that's true, it's pretty scary to think that a whole country could be involved in cybercrime
Yeah.
just to fund its activities.
Yeah.
What does this heist mean for the future of cybersecurity?
It was a wake-up call for the entire global financial system.
Right. It really showed how vulnerable banks are to these kinds of sophisticated attacks.
Exactly. And how criminals are always finding new ways to exploit weaknesses,
Right.
no matter how secure the system seems.
So what can be done to prevent this from happening again?
Well, SWIFT took steps to improve security. They implemented stronger authentication measures
Okay.
and improved information sharing between banks.
So they're talking to each other more.
Right, exactly, to help them detect suspicious activity. But this case also showed the need for stronger regulation of non-bank financial institutions like casinos.
I can see how that's important.
Yeah,
They can be used to launder money.
exactly.
So more oversight is needed to prevent that.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember the ultimate victims in all of this.
Right.
The people of Bangladesh.
Yeah, this wasn't just stealing from a bank.
Exactly.
It was stealing from a whole country. There's one more piece of this puzzle I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
The printer malfunction at Bangladesh Bank.
Right.
What role did that play in all of this?
Ah, yes. The printer was connected to the SWIFT system, and it printed a record of each transaction.
Right.
The hackers intentionally caused it to malfunction.
We did. What?
Yeah, as part of their scheme.
So they were trying to cover their tracks.
Exactly. They knew that if the printer was working, the bank staff would have immediately noticed those suspicious transactions and
Nice.
been able to stop them.
So they sabotaged it remotely.
It's incredible, right? How did they even do that?
I know.
Yeah.
How do you remotely sabotage a printer?
Well, the exact details are still a bit of a mystery.
Okay.
But remember, these hackers were inside the bank's system for months.
Right.
They had plenty of time to study the network, figure out its vulnerabilities,
Yes.
and learn how to manipulate it.
They were like puppet masters, pulling strings from afar.
In a sense, yes. They disabled the printer and also installed malware that deleted the digital records of those transactions.
Wow.
Basically trying to erase all evidence.
And it almost worked.
Right.
If it hadn't been for that spelling error.
Right.
And that whole Jupiter coincidence, they might have vanished without a trace.
It's true. It really highlights their sophistication,
Yeah.
but also the importance of luck in these situations.
Well, but it also shows the need for redundancy in these systems, right?
Absolutely. You need backups, fail-safes.
Right, like a safety net?
Exactly. If Bangladesh Bank had other ways to monitor transactions,
Like what?
like real-time alerts or backup systems.
They could have caught the fraud much sooner.
Right.
In the world of cybersecurity, you need as many safety nets as possible.
Yeah, because the stakes are just too high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't rely on a single point of failure.
So we've got hackers, casinos, a rogue nation, millions of dollars vanishing, and a broken printer that almost made it all possible.
I know, it's like something out of a movie.
It is.
But it's important to remember that this thriller has real-world consequences.
Right.
And it raises some important questions about the future of cybersecurity.
And
what does it all mean? Like, what are the big takeaways for the future of cybersecurity?
well, this heist wasn't just about, security failings at one bank.
Yeah.
It showed how vulnerable the whole global financial system is.
Right, like a stress test for the entire system.
Yeah, and the results weren't exactly great.
Not great at all. So how do we prevent this from happening again? Where do we go from here?
Well, there's a lot that can be done on the technical side. Banks need to invest in really strong cybersecurity systems.
Okay, like what?
Things like multi-factor authentication to make it harder for unauthorized access.
Right.
And keeping software up to date is so important.
Yeah.
That's how you patch those security holes before criminals can exploit them.
So are we just talking about reinforcing what we already have, or do we need a whole new approach?
It's kind of both. Technology is super important.
Right.
But we can't forget about the people involved. Education and training are just as important.
Yeah.
Bank employees need to be aware of phishing scams and other social engineering tactics.
Because even with the best tech, someone could still click on a bad link or download a dangerous file.
Exactly. It's often human error that creates the opening.
Right. The weakest link.
Yeah. The Bangladesh bank heist also showed us the need for international cooperation.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This case had banks in different countries money laundering in the Philippines.
Right.
And possibly hackers working out of North Korea.
Cybercrime crosses borders.
Yeah.
And that makes investigation and prosecution super difficult.
Makes sense.
We need a more coordinated global effort.
To catch these guys.
Yeah, to track these criminals and hold them accountable.
So it's like a global game of cat and mouse.
It is.
With incredibly high stakes.
Exactly. And it seems like law enforcement agencies have to adapt, too.
How so?
Well, they need the resources and the expertise to keep up with this constantly evolving world of cybercrime.
Right, because things are changing so fast.
Exactly. We also have to think about the laws that govern cyberspace.
Yeah.
There are a lot of gray areas when it comes to jurisdiction,
Yeah.
gathering evidence, extradition.
So it's not just about catching the bad guys, but having laws that can handle these unique challenges.
Exactly. The Bangladesh bank heist was a wake-up call,
For sure.
forcing the world to face these cyber threats.
So this event, as bad as it was, could actually lead to positive changes.
I think so. The global financial system is learning from this and taking steps to improve security. Law enforcement is getting better at investigating these crimes, and there's a growing awareness of the need for global cooperation.
That's encouraging.
There's always hope,
Yeah.
but we can't let our guard down. Cybercriminals are always coming up with new tricks.
Right. Always trying to stay one step ahead.
Exactly. Always searching for vulnerabilities to exploit. It's a constant arms race.
But in this arms race, everyone has a part to play.
Absolutely. Governments, banks, businesses, even individuals.
We're all in this together.
Cybersecurity is everyone's business. It's not just about protecting our data.
Right.
It's about protecting our financial systems, our infrastructure, our way of life.
That's a powerful thought. This heist was huge, but it's just one part of a much bigger story.
Yeah.
The story of our increasingly interconnected world
Right.
and how we keep it safe.
Exactly. And we encourage you to keep learning about this. There are
Yeah.
so many great resources out there. Articles, documentaries, podcasts, research papers.
Right.
Don't just take our word for it. Dive into the research yourself.
Yeah. Come to your own conclusions.
We've only scratched the surface here.
We have.
The world of cybercrime is constantly changing. It's a never-ending battle between those trying to exploit technology and those trying to protect us.
It is. And we'll be here to help you navigate it one deep dive at a time.
That's right. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.